Okay, let's see if we can get this thing up and running. We need to fill it up with fuel before we do anything, because this is going to be quite a long journey. Oops, that's the time, not the... fuel. Okay, so... need to go and make sure I got the correct control configuration for it. So we just want a single engine. There it was. Apply, go back, resume. We now have mixture control, which is good. So, battery on. Beacon light on. Now, I'm probably going to get this run the wrong way with the fuel shut-off valves, but we'll try it anyway. So, fuel pump, go on for a bit, and then... we have an engine. Let's just check the volume levels so you can hear me over the engine. That's okay. It's a bit loud though, isn't it? So we'll turn it down a bit. That sounds impressive. Avionics can come on. Fuel pump can come back off. So strobes. Now, what is the light? What is that switch under there? Nav lights. Okay. We're not going to be using smoke. We'll turn the transponder on now. I don't think this has an autopilot, does it? So we're going to be hand flying all the way. 200 miles of hand flying in a biplane. Oh my word. I'm going to be tired after this one. So alternator can come on now. Calibrate the altimeter. Looks like it was already good. And pull the revs back now. Now we've warmed the engine up. Very good. So we have distance measuring equipment, which is useful. And we have nav radios. So we're going to be flying VOR to VOR basically. It's interesting. I thought this had the option of a GPS, but apparently it doesn't. But we're not going to worry too much. So we are taking off Marta Airfield at Sao Paulo in Brazil. So we'll take off and fly around the area for a little bit first, and then we'll head off down to the coast. So we won't be needing any maps or anything. We'll be looking at this. Okay, so we do need to see which way the runway is though. So we want to taxi to the right and straight out on runway 30 would be helpful. And then we'll explore the city for a little bit before we get going. Forgotten you need to be careful with steering this thing. You can lock the tail wheel at 90 degrees to the direction of travel. Just avoid the van with our wing. Okay, we're in the air. Welcome to Sao Paulo. Shall we move the time to a bit earlier in the morning so we get the kind of the golden hour sunshine? So we want to move the clock. I think it's behind us. Yeah, it is. There we go. So there's the Marta airfield that we've just taken off from. Let's make sure we've got all of our lights on. Did I put the strobes on? I don't think I did. Going to sort that out while we're on the way. Oh, I did. Yeah, I behaved. I didn't put pitot heat on yet, though. Not that we're going to need it. It's a lovely warm day. And we're not going to be going that high in altitude. So I'm not going to attempt to pronounce your name, but somebody's asking if the Piper 28 from Coronado is good. Yeah, a lot of the Coronado aeroplanes are good. The only thing that's wrong with nearly all of them, I think, well, all of them potentially, is if they have an altitude pre-selector, Coronado have not figured out the programming of how the pre-selector should work. So it's kind of unique, let's put it that way. Yeah, as the following commenter said, the Pipers from Just Flight are better. Coronados are easier to fly though. And I think it's the Turbo Arrow 3 has got some really wacky ground handling in the Just Flight version. So following the update to the Coronado one recently, it's probably on a par with it, to be honest. So you can see the international airport out there in the distance. Okay, so we want to be going 166 degrees, which is about the direction we're about to be facing. So let's get inside the cockpit, get this leveled out, get it trimmed. Just trimming the elevators. So 120 knots. It's not bad going, is it? The Coronados do tend to look more real. Yeah, I think Coronado had quite a bit of bad press, just reading the comments there about them updating now and they didn't used to. So we're going to fly out towards the coast here, which is going to take a little while at 120 knots. So we are just descending gently at the moment. Which is from outside. So we're just heading out. We're still over the top of Sao Paulo. We're going to be for some time. It's a huge city, just stretches on, and then we'll get out over the headlands and we'll turn into a more of a countryside kind of exploration. But I think it's just nice to see the big city for a little bit before we get out there. So here's a question: does this have autopilot hidden inside of it or not? I don't think it does. Ah, but is there a hidden click spot in this to pull up an autopilot? I can never remember where the various click spots are for hidden things. See, there's a click spot there. And what's that click spot there for? Yeah, that's just a beacon light. So Felipe Fontana is saying, Jonathan, have you seen the upcoming Cessna 182 RG by Coronado? I've got the 182. I'm not sure what the RG is, but I've got the 182 from Coronado in the simulator. It's very good. It's just a big heavy version of a Cessna basically. It's got a bigger engine. So the WACO was the first plane I bought for flight sim. I love this bird. It's very good, isn't it? And it looks very pretty. I love the cockpit. We're looking over the side. RG is retractable gear, okay. Oh, I didn't know that Coronado were working on that. I'll keep an eye out for that one. So, we're maintaining altitude, which is good. We're trundling along about 75% throttle. So where are the engine gauges on this thing? There's RPM, so we're up near the top of RPM. Manifold pressure is quite low, but I think we can't actually get much manifold pressure out of it. Let's push it on a bit. Have to check the compass now and again, make sure we're going roughly the right direction. Although once we get to the coast it becomes easy. So we just follow the coastline. We're still over Sao Paulo, by the way. So Coda is saying the PA28 updates were good. I felt the flight model was a lot more realistic after the update, despite people bashing the stall behaviour. Working pretty spot on from real life flights. Yeah, it's from what I've heard from people who've flown the real thing, they said it was good. So Coda's also saying excited for the Phoenix update. I didn't know there was a Phoenix update coming. You guys know far more about the wider story than I do. All I usually know about is the airplane I've just done a video with. Today was the Embraer 121, the little plane that BR Sim Designs have created. It's really good, but it has some issues maybe with the flight model, but I don't know, it could be realistic. It could be realistic that it tries to kill you. Should we see if we can figure out some outside views today? It's not bad, is it? Okay, so we're wandering off, kind of cutting the corner here, but we'll eventually end up at the coast, honest. So you can see the sea over there in that headland, so maybe we've turned back that way a bit. I love the detail in Flight Simulator, being able to just look down over the side and see the roads and the cars and the houses. And okay, it's an approximation, but it's still very, very impressive. So Coda 101 is asking what specs I've got. I get this question every time. It's i7 3.6 gigahertz. What should I pull up the specy sheet for it? Here we go. So yeah, here we go. It's an Intel Core i7 3.6 gigahertz Skylake, whatever that means. 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's fast RAM. It's a quick motherboard. It's got an NVIDIA RTX 3080 graphics card. It's running on an SSD, basically a fairly quick one. I've got the actual system on a second SSD, which is much faster, but it's a lot smaller. It's an NVMe, the system SSD. In terms of graphics, the GPU has got 10 gig of RAM. I think this isn't reporting it accurately, so interesting. Speccy's got that wrong. Some mist out over the headlands. Look, so if we pull up Task Manager, we can see on the performance it's hardly being hit. Look, so CPU is running down at about 25%, and the GPU, I've frame limited it to 30 frames a second because there's no point going any faster than that, and it's less than 40% use. Although look at the GPU usage, sorry, the memory usage. It's 10 gig and it's using 8 of them. But yeah, it's interesting. I actually work as a software developer, but I don't really get involved in hardware very much. So ever since I've had this PC, I've just left Flight Sim on Ultra, basically on factory's default settings. I haven't meddled with the NVIDIA control panel. Left everything on stock. I'm not using DirectX 12, I'm using DirectX 11 because it's much better. It's much more stable, causes far fewer problems. Right, I'm just going to trim this ever so gently. It's trying to roll left all the time, so I'm just trimming on my controller, although I don't think the airplane has an aileron trim. I'm just trimming the stick so I don't have to hold it the whole time. So I'm just going to go and grab a drink while we are flying out towards the coastline here. Be back in a moment. Right, we are entered a turn while we were flying along. It's probably going to get us somewhere near back to the flight plan. So you can see the coast that we'll be travelling along in a minute. Alpha Indigo says sysadmin here, so I fix problems. Most sysadmins have to deal with things like Active Directory and probably the world of the sysadmin has changed though, hasn't it? It's all about Azure and AWS and making sure people don't go provisioning stuff they shouldn't. Trying to keep a handle on things. And migrating things that used to exist on premises up to the cloud is all changing so quickly. That mist is very effective, isn't it? The way it is done. Wonder how calm the water is today. Site reliability engineers. It doesn't help that the monitoring data from Azure is so kind of, I don't know, opaque. It doesn't tell you the whole story anywhere. You'd think with AI, the best thing they could use AI for would be to tell us exactly what's gone wrong when something's acting up. But you always get kind of red herrings and one thing that means another written all over the place. This mist on the headlands is fantastic, isn't it? You can see the ground down there through it, but yeah, we might have to descend into it just to have a play, I think. But we're going to be turning left in a moment, so it may be further along the coast. It's not as bad. So we're going to be flying over some of these towns along the coastline and eventually ending up at Ubatuba. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce it, but that's what I'm going to call it. I do apologise to anybody Brazilian watching this who's having who's horrified by pronunciation. So Stewie is saying he has X-Plane 12 and loves the Vulkan-based software. So yeah, Vulkan's just a software layer to talk to the hardware. I remember when it arrived on X-Plane 11 and then it crashed for a year. Everybody's got such a short memory. They say, oh, you know, X-Plane 11 is like the most stable simulator in the world. Yeah, I remember when Vulkan came out with X-Plane 11 and it was unusable for months. Because before Flight Sim 2020 came out, I flew X-Plane for a couple of years. I've got quite a lot of money I sank into it in terms of the Tollis and various other aeroplanes. Yes, as Coda is saying, the sheer amount of tech in Flight Sim, yeah. It's amazing what it does, what it throws around. So I've just noticed the robot Nightbot has just popped into the live chat saying, if you want to help my channel, just click like and subscribe. Every click is really helpful to me. Dennis Young says hi. Hi, Dennis. So shall we descend down? Otherwise we're not going to see much through this mist, are we? What altitude are we at? So we're, oh my word, we're at coming up for 6,000 feet. So, although we were climbing over these hills, so let's, what's the maximum speed of this thing? Oh, we can descend quite sharply then. Pull the throttle back as we do so, just so we don't go into a screaming dive. Down to 5,000 feet. Hanging out of the side of the cockpit here to see where we're going. Nobody in the front today. It's a good point actually. So there's a tablet down here. Can we turn any sort of GPS on? Static elements. Next. 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 No, we can't. There was no point doing that. And you can... Whoops, didn't mean to do that. You can hide or show the passenger cover. So when you do that, yeah, you get to see the other cockpit, which is quite cool. If we cover it back over, then it actually removes the windshield as well, which is quite cool. I love the reflections in Flight Sim. It's very clever. I mean, we know it's doing all in hardware. It's the graphics card really doing it. So Coda says, do you ever fly in real life? No, I have flown, if that is what you mean. Like, you know, I've been at the controls of an aeroplane. I'm not a pilot's license holder. I'm just a simmer. Somebody who is an enthusiast. I enjoy flying on the simulator, and quite by accident fell into this sharing videos online. at some point I'd been sharing a few videos with friends, and then over the space of a couple of years somehow picked up enough subscribers to monetize YouTube, and from then on it's just been like an avalanche, basically, a snowball going down a hill. And somehow we've now ended up with over 15,000 subscribers. It's almost become a second job. My other half laughs about it. So when a new aeroplane comes out, I'm usually the one that's burning the midnight oil, writing up checklists and recording how-to videos. It's been really kind of unexpected though, with how many people have chipped in with buying me coffees and stuff. It's been really great, actually. Kind of reaffirms some faith in humanity, really, that so many people have been so helpful along the way, including real pilots, instructors who have commented and given feedback. They're usually quite careful because they don't want to raise their head above the parapets on YouTube and get shot at. So they tend to email me privately and say, when you showed that plane you made a slight mistake, or something you could have done better, could have demonstrated differently. And it's been absolutely invaluable. Just commented on the Xingu 2 video. You mean the Embraer 121? In the tablet it's got the controls to switch between the GNS 530 and the PMA. Don't you mean the PMS GTN 750? But there's a button in the tablet to do it. Quack on, Jonathan. Rubber duck. See, now I'm old enough to remember rubber duck meaning the truck driver in the movie Convoy. In fact, we only played the tune in the house the other day. I can't play it on the channel because I'll get a copyright strike instantly. It would be the best backing music though for a group flight, wouldn't it? Playing the Convoy soundtrack. Greetings from Brazil, from Eric Sala. I live in this area. So for Eric's benefit, I think we should change the weather slightly, because it's a little bit difficult to see anything, isn't it? There's a bit of sea mist today. So it's using the live weather. So I've changed the time of day, obviously, because it's getting dark in Brazil as we're recording this. So at the moment we are just coming past now I'm not going to pronounce that correctly. I'm going to say Vertioga, but it's not, probably. I'm not sure how you pronounce anything in Brazilian. Some interesting looking buildings down here though. Obviously not accurate, it's just the AI doing its job, I guess. But you never know though, it could be accurate. So, Policarpio is saying, am I the only one who listens to music when I'm flying? No, usually I have the radio on, but if I'm doing a live stream or whatever, I daren't have music on anymore. The other day I did a live stream and put Lo-Fi Girl on in the background, which is copyright-free music. The next morning I had 11 strikes on that one video from one company called Merlin, and they appear, I did a bit of research, they appear to be an offshoot of, no, who was it? Time Warner. So the funding in their history comes from Time Warner, and they make a product called Revelator, which is used to protect the copyright of independent musicians, but they do it just by firing a blunderbuss at anything and everything. When I started researching, people were getting copyright claims on the sound of rain falling. Unbelievable. So it is Bertioga. Oh, fantastic. I always fear with places of the world I don't know at all that I'll get the pronunciation wrong. So I speak 2 languages, Spanish and English, or Espanol. Gary says, evening, hope you're doing well, love watching your streams. It's a scam. You got to say that in an Admiral Akbar voice, haven't you? So yeah, I filed counterclaims against all of the calls on the YouTube system that had, they hadn't blocked the videos, they had demonetized them, saying that they owned the music in them, which they obviously don't. But what they will do then is let it run to 30 days with the counterclaim, and when the 30 days runs out, I get all of the money that would have been earned in the meantime. But it means I'm out of pocket for a month, basically, just because they're firing copyright claims around like a machine gun. So Curly Toes, great username, is saying, did this get updated recently? Today. I looked today in the updates and there was an update to the WACO, the YMF-5. So here we are in it. It's a great little aeroplane. So we're just going to go along these headlands. What speed are we doing? Oops. About 120-ish. We're slowly climbing again now. Let's go and put some elevator trim in. Get the aeroplane to descend. I'm fairly sure actually if we do some aerobatics in the WACO, it won't hurt it. It's a pretty rugged aeroplane. We probably just sprayed fuel out of the engine all over the place, or oil, sorry, I should say. Does the smoke switch work? Shall we try it? No, it's not clickable. Unless there might be something, I guess, in the tablet for it. Let's have a look. Doesn't look like it. Should really look where I'm going, shouldn't I? Too tempting to land on the beach, isn't it? Or to at least do a touch and go. Shall we put FS realistic on as well? Make it a bit more movable. There we go. So now if we go and touch the wheels down now, you'll see a difference. Let's go and get onto the nice dry sand. As gently as we can. To be careful, the water is so flat calm here today, can't actually see any waves, can't see the surface of the water, but you can kind of, only in the reflections. So whereabouts are we? Let's go and have a look at the map. Have to get FS Realistic out of the way. I asked the developer if they could stop that program sticking up in front of everything. It's called modal in programming speak. There's no reason for it to do it. It's just laziness on the part of the developer, or they're maybe doing it as a bit of a guerrilla act to force the app in front of you at every opportunity. It just antagonises people. It's really bad interface design. So we were going to have a look and see where we were, weren't we? And it's done it again, look. Stupid thing. So we're just coming up this headland. So we're about halfway along towards Ubatuba. And it's done it again. I need to get it out of the alt tabbing history. There we go. So it won't come back. If we turn the wind up a bit, we'll be able to see the water. So let's go and put some wind in place. So instead of saying live weather, we'll say ground wind. So this is up to a level of yeah, that's interesting, look. So if we just say wind speed, you watch the water. Just give it a few knots and it's enough to give the water some texture with the water moving around with the wind. if we get the wind a bit faster, you'll actually see white caps on the waves. So we want to select this and increase the wind, say 10 knots. There you go. So Outdoors Delmarva is saying, what add-on do I use for ships? I don't. I have got the, oh, is it called GAIST? That's the acronym, isn't it? GAIST, which you can get from FlightSim.2. But I've never, well, I have used it, but I never normally bother with it. So any boats you're seeing around are just being spawned in by the simulator. So let's have a look at where we are. So we're just coming out towards São Sebastião. So we'll probably cut in between the islands and carry on our way over to Ubatuba, which is about 35 miles away now. If we play with the time, we can obviously make this look really pretty if we want to. Open the engine up, get there a bit quicker. Should we dip down to the water while we're on the way? close as I want to get. So what we could do to get there a bit more quickly, to get into the interesting part of the flight a bit more quickly, is go to slew mode, and we'll just accelerate ourselves along this route a little way. So even then we haven't actually gone that far. Let's do that again. Oh, sim has frozen. Give it a second. It's just running out of RAM basically. I think that's what causes this. It will release in a moment. Famous last words, of course. Give it some time. There it goes. Okay, so we're getting closer to the first airfield along the coast that we're going to go visit, which is Ubatuba. Sierra Delta Uniform Bravo. So let's go and zoom in on this bit of coast and have a look at it. So we're just coming up to this first headland, Praia Vermelha do Sol. So we'll go between the headlands here to see it. Just aiming between here. Or we would if we steer the right direction. How do I get my map to look like that on Little Nav Map? This is the Google Maps Terrain add-on. It's an unofficial add-on. If you Google Maps Little Nav Map, you'll find the download for it on the internet, and with instructions of where to put the files. So it gives you not only terrain view, it gives you all of the others as well, so you get satellite view as well if you want it. I prefer terrain. It's a lot clearer to look at. Quite a noisy aeroplane, isn't it? little town we're just flying over. Lazaro. And Praia de Enseada, I presume that is. Enseada, which is over here. What's my speed? Let's have a look. 130-ish knots. I'm on the Southeast Asia server, by the way, so if you wanted to come in and join me on the flight, I'm just doodling along Southeast Asia servers in Flight Sim. I've got multiplayer on all players, so anybody that turns up should show up. Alpha Indigo says they're behind us, so let's just spin the camera around. Yep, can see you. Need to put your nav lights on. Oh, are they on already? Your plane's a bit quicker than mine. Eric is saying, is there a Discord group flight? No, this is just me messing around doing a live stream. So we're going to come in runway 27 in a moment. I'm going to go back to live weather though, which is going to make the water absolutely mirror flat calm because there's a runway over here. If you just peek your head sideways in this aeroplane, you can see speed as well as all the instruments. So just bleeding speed off on the way in. So the aircraft speed in this is in miles per hour, not knots. So when I said earlier I was doing about 130 knots, I wasn't. I was doing about 130 miles an hour, which is probably 120 knots. So engines to idle, bleeding the speed off on the approach. Still doing 90 miles an hour. throttle again. And we're in the air. That is the most strangely painted runway I think I've ever seen. Okay, off up the coast we go. Okay, so we're now on our way further up the coast to Parati. What we may do is use some slew along the way so this doesn't go on all night otherwise, because this airplane's quite slow. So what we can do is, with the wonders of slew, is throw ourselves further down the track. Okay, take the slew back off. And what is the wind doing with live weather? 1 knot. So we can take our chance on any direction for the runway. So we just pick a good looking approach really. So we're just coming over the top of the airfield just down here, look. So I guess it would make sense to come in from the bay. So we'll just loop round over the bay. Do a left circuit in. So to keep this interesting, we may well slew in between each of the airfields along the way, and then go live as we approach Rio. Because obviously there's the Christ the Redeemer to go have a look at. There's a lot of custom content there. It's always interesting when you see your own shadow, isn't it, on approach? Have I ever thought about developing anything for MSFS? Well, I wrote the transmitter program. But no, I'm not going to get into aeroplanes. I just don't have the time. I think the guys that build the aeroplanes for Flight Sim are the unsung heroes of the community, to be honest. Because it is so time consuming to do something, to do a 3D model and all the material modelling this accurately takes a lot of skill and a lot of time. Okay, so that was, oops, Parati. We are now going to fly across the bay to Angra dos Reis. So we're going to go to sleep mode, skip across the bay at warp factor 10, Mr. Scott. The higher you go in slew mode, I don't know if you knew this, the faster it goes. So here we go, we're just approaching this whole harbour complex, so we'll come off slew in here and fly across this whole inlet because it's really pretty. So someone's saying this one doesn't seem to bounce as much as some of the tail draggers. That's entirely to do with me landing it smoothly, I'm afraid. I am being very careful to bring it down and letting it fall those last couple of feet where, you know, it's not flying anymore by the time it touches the floor. The only way you do that is to manage the approach, so we're losing speed throughout the approach, then holding it just off the runway until it wants to settle. That's how you avoid bounces. Basically, if it bounces, the aeroplane's still trying to fly. Of course, there's always a risk-reward with that, because if you bounce, you can put yourself into a stall. So we're looking for Angra dos Reis. There's 5-knot crosswind, 6-knot crosswind, but that might not be true of the on the ground down here. 6 knots, 60 degrees. Okay. So we're just coming in over the top of the bay. We should get visuals on it. It's down here. The sun isn't helping us, unfortunately, at this angle, with it bouncing off the water right in front of the airfield. It's down here somewhere. And then there's another one 5 miles away, just over there in the floodplain by the look of it. So we'll just trundle along for a bit and hopefully we'll get visuals. Oh, we can see it now, look. It's right on the water's edge. So did we say we had a crosswind? So we could get away with going straight in, couldn't we? So let's go and lose some height. So throttle off. Let the nose fall. How are we doing for speed? 120 miles an hour. So, which languages do I program in, if you don't mind me asking? All sorts. Recently, Ruby, bizarrely, but I don't have much of a history with it. JavaScript, can you count HTML as a language? It's really a markup language, isn't it? CSS, another markup language. C#, C, Pascal many years ago. Visual Basic many years ago now. What else? There's all sorts. Delphi was a variant of Pascal, so that doesn't really count as an independent thing. But yeah, mostly these days it's all JavaScript for front-end stuff, and then C# for writing serverless functions on Azure. And a lot of corporate stuff, bizarrely, is being done with Ruby on Rails. I've actually come to really like Ruby on Rails. It was a bit foreign when I first started using it. COBOL, not necessarily seen it in the wild, but there are variants of it, such as ABAP, which is the programming language behind SAP, which is a derivative of COBOL as far as I have seen. It looks very similar to it. I've not actually programmed ABAP myself, but some of my colleagues have. So we're feeding in more and more elevator. This gets quite nose heavy, this aeroplane. So the idea here is we get over the runway and then run the aeroplane out of airspeed while on idle and load to the ground. We're running in more and more elevator, more and more. There we go, we've just touched. Just teetering on the edge of flight as we do that. Full power. Obviously the aeroplane starts to fly again and we gently pull away from the ground. This aeroplane is a bit of a beast. It's capable of far more than I'm showing here. Because, you know, for example, you could quite safely go probably into a loop from here. It would fall over the top, but it would do it. You see we're stalling now, just being careful that we don't go and put it in the floor. So we want to go around the bay though, we don't want to go down this valley. If you remember, we're trying to get to this little airfield over here. So we're going to follow around. I mean, this thing can climb like nobody's business. And roll. Yeah, it started to give up the engine then when it was in -G. I was pushing forwards to hold the airframe direction and it didn't like it, so I let it go and let it fall. As soon as we come around the side of this hill, we should see the airfield. So again, we're looking at a crosswind. Oh, there's no wind. Now we're further inland. No wind at all. Oh yeah, PHP. I know PHP. I forgot that. I wrote one of the first blog scripts on the internet with PHP many years ago, and it kind of made me had my 5 minutes of fame, I guess, back then. It was before WordPress existed, before Matt had forked. Well, it was Matt and someone else, Mark Little, was it? They forked the B2 blog. I can't remember now. But before that existed, I wrote one of the early blog scripts in PHP. Everybody was up to, you know, doing it, but I did quite a clean implementation. You can see the airfield just coming over here. So should we go straight in from this direction? Coming over the top of this hill. So yeah, there was back in the day I learnt the lamp infrastructure over the course of a few weeks and wrote one of the first blog engines. I built it for myself. One of my co-workers was looking at it one day at lunchtime when I was tinkering with it, and he said, "You should release that as open source." And I said, "What's open source?" And he showed me, you know, the ins and outs and the various licenses, and we uploaded it, I think the next day, after I tidied the code up a bit, and ended up with thousands of people all over the world using it. It turned into, again, an unintentional second job, looking after it. Okay, let's get some speed up. But I guess PHP has probably moved on a lot from when I last used it. I knew it inside out around the time of about PHP 4, which is probably 15 years ago now. It's up to PHP 8 now, isn't it? So the forum I built for VirtualFlight.Online is based on PHP BB, which obviously is based on PHP. But people tend to use frameworks for everything now. Back when I was programming in PHP, you did most of it yourself. Okay, so should we slew across to Club? I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I don't know how the accents work on the names. Club Q, I'm guessing it is. Airport. So we'll just clear this hill and then we'll go to Slough to get to the next airfield. Yeah, Laravel is one of the frameworks I was kind of referring to, but I thought nobody's going to know what I'm talking about, so I won't mention anything by name. It's just it's yet another MVC framework, isn't it? To kind of standardize controllers, views, models, and to do scaffolding for you. This is all standard scenery, Eric, so if you're wondering. So let's go to slew mode and gain altitude. Hopefully we skim the hills. I'm going to have to give it a few moments there. So where are we going? We're going roughly the right direction, which is surprising. So it's further up this peninsula is the next destination. That will do, and we'll fly in from here to keep it interesting. So this area is Santa Cruz, and just around the corner is Rio de Janeiro, so this is really kind of a suburb, I guess. It would have been completely separate in years gone by, but now it's all part of the same land, or the same sprawl, I should say. So is this the airfield down here that we can see? Yeah, it's just a little way inland from us, look. So which way's the wind? 13 knots, so it's going to be quite a strong crosswind, but it's probably not down there. It's 8 knots, 70 degrees. So that would make sense for going runway 13. So we'll do a 90-degree turn, and we're going to come in from this side. Come off the engine. Look out of this side of the cockpit so we can see the airfield coming. So we're going to be too high and too fast. So I'm going to overshoot on purpose, and then doing the turns will scrub some speed off on the way. Just keep it off the wing there. The aileron response in the WACO is fantastic. Okay, so we're on our way to Rio. How far is it? Is it worth... It's 30 miles away to the actual airfield. So yeah, we'll go off around the headland with Slew to get there quickly. This is Flight of the Navigator style, isn't it? Just check the map. Yeah, it's around the next headland. Okay. So we are going to be going up there to go and have a look at the Christ the Redeemer statue. Should we change the weather a little bit? Lower the sun, get the golden hour going on, because then we'll come in and land at Santos Dumont airfield. Lee's joined the channel. Hi Lee. So Lee has been in a YMF-5. And he's been to Rio. So I'm just slowing down. How are we doing for speed actually? I don't want to get too slow. I don't want to go and drop a wing on Christ the Redeemer. That would be quite amusing, wouldn't it? Lots of angry believers threatening to do nasty things to me, probably. we can do this from outside without crashing. Right, should we drop down into Santos Dumont? I love the comment. I wonder if we can do this without crashing. So normally if you come in here with the big jets, you do like a zigzag to come into Santos Dumont. It's down here. It's quite a challenging approach actually if you want to have a crack at it. Some of the standard approach routes come in over the bay. Oops, and they zigzag around here. So they come in, it's about 1,000 or 1,500 feet here and drop down onto the runway and then see if they can stop before getting wet. Should we see what this looks like in the evening? I bet it looks fantastic. So if we move the time forwards. Looks good, doesn't it? Do you think we'd get in trouble if we landed on the beach instead? We'll go for the airport. Trying to scrub speed off at extreme speed. There we go, we've just about done it. Whoa, and we've crashed the plane. I could see the water coming at speed. I didn't want to get wet. Thankfully we have SLU, which would save us from all of our blushes. So after all of those lovely landings I did, I then threw it away on the final one. when I should have gone round. It's very cool how it does the water, isn't it? You can see the waves breaking on the shore. I've never noticed that before, that they actually break. How cool is that? Golf airplane. Of course, we can make the whole simulator an awful lot more busy if we run the what's it called? FSLTL. If anyone hasn't seen this, this is a sight to behold. Right, watch the traffic appear around us. There they come. Not as much as I thought would appear. So what FSLTL does is, let's make it wider. Yeah, it's only pulled a few planes in, look, because it's simulating real air traffic. So it's pulling the data from Flight Radar 24. And it then injects it into the simulator and puts the real planes that are in the air at the airfield, or sorry, in the airspace. But it gives them, it turns them into AI aeroplanes, and it gives them their real flight plans to go fly. So they just get on with it from that point within the simulator. But this manages injecting them into the simulator for you. So there's a few in the sky nearby, but not many. If you do it near JFK or somewhere like that, obviously it goes absolutely bananas. Anyway, I'm going to switch that back off. So should we go and fly? Oops. I keep forgetting you have to... I'm in drone camera mode. Can't actually see the aeroplane at the moment. There we go. Narrowly avoided the jetway. Okay, parking brake on. But I've got to remember how to do this now. Pull the mixture back. Shut the fuel. Pull the other mixture back. Alternator off. All the lights can come off. Fuel pump is already off. Transponder can come off. Avionics can go off. And battery can go off. And magnetos could go back to off. There we go. Okay. Hopefully you enjoyed that, including the crash at the end, but buffed out with a magical press of the Y key. And I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for following along. But yeah, do go and have a look at FSLTL and load it in with one of the big airfields, and it's absolutely magical to watch. See you again soon.